What post-secondary education have you received? What has your career path been since you graduated post-secondary? And what do you like most about your job?
My name is Holly, and I am a freelance musician here in Calgary. I moved to Calgary to do my master's right after I finished my undergrad at the University of Calgary. And then I moved to France and studied at a conservatory in Paris for a couple of years. Moved back to Calgary, freelancing, and then I worked on a doctorate, which I completed just right when the pandemic hit. I've always had a love for music. So being able to share that as part of my job, seeing students succeed or improve or go on and study music on their own or become, engineers or something completely different, but continue to have a love for music, playing in community bands, going to concerts, things like that, is a really fulfilling thing.
I just finished my second year of my undergrad at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver. I just love getting up on stage and making art that asks the big questions. And whatever the art is about, whatever the performance is about, it just provokes thought. And that's my favorite part, that if someone can walk away from a show that I put on and it can make them think about their life and their purpose.
I started my life as an athlete, and when I was competing, I was always looking for something fun to do in the summers because I was away in Europe most of the time. So in the summers, I would go and do some acting, and I had a blast, and it was really fun. And I ended up, in addition to the acting, I was also going to school at Mount Royal. I graduated as an RSW, a registered social worker. So I took social work at school, and I always enjoyed going out to set. It was fun. It was meeting other people. I had an agent at the time. However, I felt that agent was not suitable to me and what I wanted to do. And what I ended up doing from that is I started my own talent agency.
How did you find your passion in fine arts?
My parents put me in a lot of activities. From the time I was a kid, they put me in all these, different summer camps, and then I was just trying everything. And I liked a lot of the stuff I was doing, but what I really loved was acting and performance. When they put me in the little theater camps and stuff, that's what I loved doing.
What was the hardest thing about turning your passion for music into a career?
It takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of skills that you kind of have to somewhat develop on your own, or like how to create a professional resume and how to create a website and how to kind of get your name out there. There's a lot of skill sets that you don't necessarily get from going to school that you have to work on and develop as you go, and I think that's probably the hardest part.
What are some challenges that you have come across while operating a talent agency?
So for myself, it's long hours, working, coordinating COVID testings, fittings, shoot times, shoot locations, all that kind of stuff. So one of the challenges we have is the volume of work that we actually have here in Alberta that I'm trying to get all my actors out on.
What's the best way to dive into acting for film and television at a young age? Do you know of any programs or work experience opportunities for the Albertan youth to get involved in acting?
Getting into just taking some lessons with Company of Rogues, Calgary Actor Studio with Dan Libman are some great lessons to start out with.
It's always best to kind of go through an agency who has the knowledge of who the good ones are. There are a lot of people out there who represent themselves as being legit, but really they're not. And so safety is to have an agency who is listed on the ACTRA website. ACTRA is the governing body of all talent agencies in Canada. Every province has their own. ACTRA is an acronym, but they are basically in charge of all of us agencies. So all the reputable agencies are listed on the ACTRA Alberta website. And those are the ones that I would recommend that people call, speak to each of the agencies and just see which one they get a feel for the best.
How can I improve my musical production skills? For example, any tips on playing and creating music?
One thing to be aware of on the production side, the composition side, the performance side, is to get used to spending focused, concentrated time in a room by yourself doing your work, which is sometimes really hard to do, especially when you're younger. So even if it's setting a timer and being like, I'm going to close myself into my room, I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb, and I'm going to put a timer on for 20 minutes, and I'm going to spend 20 minutes with my instrument or 20 minutes at the computer writing or whatever. But yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice would be to find a teacher and start learning from someone who's been where you currently are at and has kind of gone on beyond that.
How difficult is it to get into character? What are some tips that help you prepare for your role?
I was just in this production at school. We just put it on about a couple weeks ago, but we were rehearsing from January to March. But I didn't feel, at least, that I was in character until dress rehearsal night. And even on the day of, like, I have a show that night, it takes me hours to feel like I am neutral, and I have to do a very specific ritual. I do like a physical warm up, I do a vocal warm up, I do all these things to make myself feel entirely neutral. And kind of like possession. I know that sounds bad, but it's almost like possession in that you want to be possessed by this character. You want to understand them so they can take over you and you can feel what they're feeling.
What is it that makes a person stand out to you if they're talented?
So basically what we're looking for are people who are committed to their craft. So people who truly have that passion for acting. And generally you can see that by the way they do their auditions. They totally get into that character that Lachlan was talking about. You get into that character. Even if the audition is only a minute long, for that 1 minute, they have to sell themselves as being that specific character that the casting director is looking for. Nowadays, we've gone to a lot of the online like recordings to upload. And so it's very important that those actors stand out to those casting directors by really truly being in that moment of that character.
What are some skills needed in order to become a great actor?
I think you need to understand yourself, and you need to understand other people in order to get there, in order to get to that place where you can be them. And I think you also need to have a unique lived experience. I think the way to become a good actor is you live your life. You sneak out of the house at 3 a.m. to go see a girl. You flunk a test. You pass a test. You win a sports championship. You lose a sports championship. You do all these things, and you understand what emotional stakes really are. You understand how that feels. And once you have that, once you have these experiences, you can draw on them to play these characters.
The actors can and should and will draw on their own life experiences to get into that moment of that character. So the other half of that is you have to realize they are also acting. That's not actually their personality.
What are the pros and cons of becoming a conductor / composer in addition to a musician?
If you spread yourself too thin and try and be a conductor, composer, performer on 7 different instruments, and run 13 businesses and blah blah blah, you're going to be, what is it, jack of all trades, master of none, which doesn't always work out super well. But as long as you have a passion and a curiosity, I think that will like propel you to keep working to get better at something. So conducting is something I've done in the last 8-10 years, and it's brought me a lot of other opportunities and a lot of work and stuff like that. So as long as there's a passion and a curiosity, I think that's important. Do
you have any advice on how to improve my networking and connection making skills?
Go out, take some of the classes. If you're serious, you should be going out and taking classes. All the casting directors like that on the resume. That's a good way to network when you're going out on set and meeting people from all over the place. That's another really good way to network, to either grow your resume or hear about maybe other opportunities that are out there. But
be social. I meet a lot of people at school, obviously, my profs, my classmates, but I also go see a lot of work, not just theater. I see a lot of dance. I go to Vancouver Art Gallery at least like twice a year. Just you can talk about art with people.
I'd just like to ask all of our panelists if they have any last pieces of advice for students like us.
There's a rumor out there that you have to get the training first before you find an agent. No, you don't. I would suggest find an agent first. They can help you build that resume in addition to any classes that you might take. And that's always a great step to take when you really truly have a passion for the acting community.
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Just make friends, talk to people, tell people what you like, tell people what you don't like, form opinions, and don't be afraid to make art and ask questions and ask the really hard questions.
Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Go out and seek opportunities, even while you're in school or while you think you're in training or you're an amateur. Make sure you're seeking opportunities for yourself, and keep an open mind.